Ben Bargh, Head of CRC Commercial. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
There's lots I want to get into today, lots we can talk about, but maybe you can introduce yourself first.
Sure. I'm Ben Bargh. People call me Ben Bargh. Currently working as a Managing Director of CRC, which is a prominent, I would say, commercial brokerage and advisory in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Sharjah. We're part of a bigger group. You perhaps know our sister company, Better Homes. And we have over 100 employees that they focus on the commercial property market. That's one of the businesses that I run. I also involved with a few other businesses. Dubai Amateur Football League, which is purely my hobby business, football. We do some development work in commercial sector, Open Hub Business Center, Open Hub Corporate Services, and a few others.
I had no idea. I knew CRC was the biggest commercial real estate company in Dubai. I had no idea you got to 100 agents now.
Yes, 100 brokers. We started in 2018. We rebranded Better Homes Commercial to CRC, which stands for Commercial Real Estate Consultants. I came up with my business partners with the idea of having a brand which focused purely on commercial. And as they say, the rest is history. So we've grown to 100 people now.
Yeah, and everyone's heard of CRC, I have to say, but the Better Homes Group is very well known. Yes. and still has a huge market share. I've used Better Homes many times myself. In fact, the current apartment that I rent is through Better Homes. I've sold properties through Better Homes. I've used your short-term rentals. It's a great company, and everybody knows it. What I didn't realise, and it was interesting talking to you earlier, that you got financial involvement in CRC. Yeah. So that's a combination of you and is Linda Mahoney still?
Yeah. So Linda and Ryan Mahoney, they are the founder and CEO of
Mother and Son
of Better Homes, and Better Homes, is part of a bigger group called Sencorp, and Sencorp has got 11 businesses underneath it at the moment. And they are obviously very well known through their flagship brand, Better Homes. And, when we started CRC, it was a proposal by me to kind of partner with them in the commercial sector. And
massive vote of confidence for you personally that they agreed to that.
I think, you need a bit of a confidence, and also you need to prove yourself. And I was working for Better Homes at that time. So, there were some milestones to be achieved, and, they were achieved. So, and, you got to have a bit of a luck as an entrepreneur. You have to take a punt. You have to be confident, but, you can't be shy of working hard. I remember at times I would come to office at earlier years at 8 o'clock and leave by 8 p.m. every day, because it's a lot of work to set up a business, and it takes a lot of energy. So I'm blessed having good partners and good brands as a partner. And having said that, now CRC is its own brand, so it's got its own, I would say, pathway. And, I couldn't ask for better partners at that time. And right now I can also say the same thing. We really get along really well, and they're very supporting.
Yeah, we were chatting earlier, and clearly you're heavily involved with tech. Yes. You were showing me a football app. Yeah. We'll get onto football in a bit because I'm keen on that as well.
Yeah.
But from a tech side of things, what are CRC doing?
So, obviously, if you look at the traditional brokerage, and I think you're also very experienced in that sector, when you look at 20 years ago, there has been an evolution of tech. I remember people telling me that they were working 20 years ago and they were matching files,
Yeah.
So they have the tenants files and the landlord's files, and they go through it. And obviously, after a while, you had the CRM coming through, and now the portals, they have a lot of say in terms of technology as well. You have to have verified listings. You have to have, certain quality of listings.
It's improved a lot,
improved
hasn't it?
Significantly in this market. So we at CRC, we really care about all those elements. So we have a really good CRM system where all the brokers using it. We are, having very good relationship with various portals. In terms of lead generation, we try to be market leader, in various key areas that we are focusing on. And, there's a very huge buzzword these days, AI. We're looking at how we can integrate softwares or AIs into our processes by bringing, unique, I would say, qualities to our service and enhance and improve, the offering that we have for our clients. So, we are studying, for example, how we can have an automated system where when the clients make an inquiry, they'll receive some options, and then there will be further like registration qualification through the automated system before it goes to your broker. So I was chatting with you earlier. I think, the traditional way of working from 20 years ago till now has changed a lot, but it's going to change a lot going forward. I believe that we'll have a lot of technologies complementing our services, and eventually, there are some services that we so automated that it doesn't even need human interaction.
We'll be at work.
I mean, there will be new works. If you look at like 100 years ago, we had a business called horseshoe, I would say a person who does, tailor nice horseshoes. And now they do tires for the cars, and maybe in the future they will do something else. So there will be an evolution of jobs, but we will still work at some capacity. Maybe we will become all software engineers, or prompters, for AI, but we will still be working.
Yeah, getting those prompts right is the important thing at the moment, isn't it? You touched on portals there. Yeah. So the two prominent portals are Property Finder and Valuation. I think you had previously been involved with Houza as well.
Yes.
I find the portals interesting because it's exactly the same in the UK, and it's probably true in other countries. It's so difficult for a third or a fourth portal to break through, isn't it?
Yeah. Look, I agree. There was I would say, a group of real estate leaders, prominent brands that they came together, and, obviously Better Homes and CRC were one of the many that they came together to create a portal to compete. Because if you look at our cost of our operation, the model that exists in Dubai is very different to UK or Australia, right? We give upfront, on average, 55% of our commission to the brokers because we don't pay salaries, right? So what is left for us is 45%, and you have to pay all the costs and make some profit. And suddenly, when the cost of portal, it becomes a huge portion of that as a marketing cost. You want to look at alternatives to fight back. And, Houza was for us an option. But, I think I look at that as a good experience for all of us, and stick with what you're good at. Portal is a totally different business to real estate brokerage. And also, I think the market went very pro portals, right? Because at that time, when we started, it was COVID times, and there's a lot of focus on cost cuttings, and people were a bit like apprehended to invest. But then market turned, and the way market started booming, and nobody really cared about Houza as much as we cared at the beginning.
Sure.
Because we thought,
it's backs to the wall a bit.
Yeah. Let's now focus on making money because the market is amazing. But it was a great experience. Look, I always look at it as if you don't try, you don't know if you're going to be successful. Obviously, I've tried with a few different businesses so far. Some of them have been relatively successful, like CRC.
Very successful.
I mean, it's a compliment from you. I always look at us like it's in an ocean. We're small fish, small. You've got the likes of international brands and huge brands that they're also there in Dubai. But yes, we kind of, in our own sense, we kind of in our own sector, we wanted to be successful, and we kind of had a good success. But there are some businesses we invested in, like Houza, and unfortunately, it wasn't as successful as we thought. So it's a learning point. I look at it as a learning point.
Yeah, the equivalent in the UK was On the Market. I don't know whether you've heard of On the Market, but they started, that was agent owned, very similar to Houza here in Dubai. Yeah. And that really struggled. But American investment has come. I don't know whether I think it's private equity, similar to private equity owning Bayut and Property Finder, and also Zoopla in the UK. Can I ask, were there any interested parties in getting involved financially other than the real estate agents in Dubai in Houza?
I don't have that information, to be honest with you. CRC was a very small investor in the portal. I didn't have any operational role or executive, decision making. So I can't comment on this, to be honest. And perhaps you want to ask someone else who was involved to give you more details. But I look at it as, again, as a positive journey, right?
Definitely,
the people that were involved, they were all very successful in their own sense. You had the likes of the Olsop brothers and let's say Ryan and Linda have been part of Better Homes. They have successful businesses, not only one, many businesses, some of them. And, I looked at that and said, look, we all learned something from it. So I hope we'll come back. And yes, there are some financial, I would say, losses for some of us, right? But I look at it as something
but
that
in the scheme of things, not that great.
I don't think so.
I
think they all survived. We all survived after that. So it was a good experience. Like I learned a few things from it. And, one thing I learned is sometimes it's good to keep being focused in one area that you're good at. I'll give you another example of another business we've done. So we set up a business called pethouse.com, right? And that was purely on the back of COVID. I remember I was sitting in my room and, every call was a bit depressing. It's the beginning of the COVID, we're closing this, we're cost cutting, we're reducing salaries. I don't know. We're fearing of, not making any money for one business or another. And, we had the business center business, we had the real estate business, we had all this football business, nobody play football. And I remember as I was thinking to myself, what is selling actually? Like, okay, food, it's very difficult to compete against the likes of Carrefour and those big players in the market. That's like pet food, right? So
they need food.
They have 3 cats, they're still eating. So we started, pethouse.com. I think, that also was itself, it's still going as a business,
right,
but it hasn't had the same growth path because when I look at it, I say, this wasn't part of the key business, the core business. If you stick with your core businesses and what it's make it much easier to kind of diversify. Pethouse was a kind of an add-liner to what we knew. Where on the other hand, for example, we set up open up business centers, which capitalize on the lead flow that we had for CRC and open up corporate services, which is a business setup, corporate services, again, capitalize on the same lead flow. This way, we're kind of diversifying within what we know, within the same clientele, right? So the know-how can be incrementally improve in each business, but you don't have to go drastically so different, right? So that for me was a lesson, right? And I think, it's a good lesson. I'll share it with all the entrepreneurs. Yeah. If you want to diversify, try to diversify vertically and do it in a way that, is kind of related to what you do.
Yes, no, I totally agree. Let's get into commercial.
Sure.
What areas of commercial do you like at the moment? Obviously, there's warehouses, there's retail, there's office space, lots of different areas.
Correct.
What's performing the best, would you say, right at the moment in Dubai?
It's funny. I was one of those people. I always ask myself, who is going to come and work in these offices that built? This is 4 years ago. Or I drive past Dubai Hills and say, oh my God, there's another huge community. Who's going to come and live here? Obviously, if you're new to Dubai and if you don't see the bigger picture and you don't understand that there is a vision and that vision is kind of improving and refining every few years and all the government organization entities is kind of following the same path, right? You understand that why commercial real estate right now at such a high occupancy, right? So when you ask me which sector do I like, offices are in prime locations are 95% plus occupancies, right? At one stage when we went to one building, this is 3 years ago, they will show you 3 floors and they will say, did you like it? They say no, they will show you another 2 floors, right? Now they're saying upcoming is 3,000 square feet and there's a waiting list, right? So what is interesting for me is lack of supply, right? So if you look at in 2005, 6, 7, there's a lot of supply came to the market in commercial. A lot of developers and landlords suffered for a long time, and now they see the benefits. But I think they've all been kind of scared to come up with new developer. If you see the supply of commercial real estate, it's a very minor percentage. I think it's 3 to 5% of the total supply. So all the developers, they're doing residential. But what's happened over the last 2 years, the prices have gone up. The prices are going up significantly. We've seen the demand is getting stronger because more people want to come here and set up businesses. Why? Because still relatively low tax. it could be a hub for a region, although Saudi is competing for that as well at the moment.
I think there's space for both, isn't there?
There is for sure. And, I think, eventually you will have a couple of more cities in the region that they want to compete like that, which is good for good for businesses. Look, at the end of the day, when you have a free market and you have players that are competing for the same market, it becomes better for the market. So I'm pro that, and what the way government's done is it's created a very safe environment. And, what I've seen is coming from, I have a lot of friends from UK. If you want to play football, if you want to go to the pub, you can go. And then you have a lot of Muslim friends, and at the same time, they go to the mosque and pray on Friday. So it's created a very safe environment in terms of if you want to pursue what you like, you can do it, right? As long as it's within reason and legal. You can enjoy your good lifestyle, a healthy lifestyle. You can have access to a lot of services that you might not have access. And
24/7,
24/7. One thing is, this is what I was going to say. Coming from Sydney, recently I was there for Mother's Day, and at 5 or 6 o'clock everything closes, and I was a bit culturally shocked. Going back there after being living here for 15 years now. So yeah. Commercial sector for me it's booming, but the reality is as well, it's a bit of a lack of stock.
Yeah. So give me those figures again. What percent? About 3%, did you say? Of property?
I don't want to be quoted, but the last I heard was it's only about 3 to 5% of the total supply in Dubai is developed now. Under development is commercial. So it's very you can really can't. Like there's 2 or 3 buildings are coming up in the next few years.
And then when investors are coming in, they're more comfortable with residential, aren't they? And so there is real opportunity. And I was speaking to Andrew Elliott just a few weeks ago, who you worked with. He was with you at CRC, and he was saying exactly the same. And he's invested back in the UK. His wife's more involved with that. She's more comfortable with residential, but it does mean that there's this huge opportunity for those that are prepared to, I wouldn't say take a risk, because I don't think it's risky, but learn about commercial and get involved.
You're right. It's a bit of a black box for a lot of investors, right? But if I'm talking to professional investors that they are willing to diversify in the property market, most of them, they have commercial assets. I'm talking about people that they've got maybe 20 different units that will be part of that portfolio will be commercial, right? But for the person who wants to buy 1 unit, or their end users, they want to live in it, obviously they're not going to go and buy an office first. Traditionally, people are more inclined to buy residential units, right? And it's an easier sell, especially if people coming from a different country, right?
Yes, yeah.
You're coming from another country. You understand homes, right? 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom. Now we talk about offices. You don't know whether it's free zone, not free zone, freehold, not freehold. It's just complicated.
Labor camp, warehouse. Yeah.
But if you're a professional investor, suddenly there's a good chance that you've got one of those labor camps, right? Because it gives you 14% return.
14%.
Some of them they do, yes. And this is interesting because those big players, like the big funds, institutional funds, right? Now they're fighting over industrial areas, right? But they're not interested in buying residential buildings, right? Because of the return that they get.
Yeah. Can you discuss more about yields in other areas? So it can be up to 14% in labour camps.
Look, yeah, correct. So I don't want to generalize, a figure. It depends on many factors here. So traditionally, first you got to look at the land, whether it's freehold or leasehold, because there's 2 different method of valuation for them, right? And if it's leasehold, how many years of lease? Is it 10 years left, or is that 50 years? Because if it's 50 years, it's substantial enough to be almost be evaluated in the same way as a freehold, right? Then we look at, I would say, areas, industries, right? So you look at industrial areas, like for example in Dubai Industrial Park, which is DIP 1 and 2, DICs. Look, Jebel Ali, look at the area and the demand for that area, right? Look at the quality of the tenant. Sometimes, the valuation of a business is done not by what you build, it's the quality of the tenant. If you have, for example, a multinational there with 10 years contract and a escalation,
money, isn't it?
You're guaranteed money, no break lease clause, So So sometimes it's 11% yield, right? But it's, you know that you're going to get 11% for 10 years, right? So it depends on the quality of tenant. So there's many factors. I can't just throw a number, but I've seen 14%, I've seen 15%, I've seen 12%. So in general, if I want to really generalize it, offices you can fetch anywhere between 6 to 8% in freehold, right? But industrial areas where it's leasehold mostly, you can get anywhere between 9 to 14%. So, but again, depends on many factors.
Yeah, and I presume that obviously the shorter the lease left, the higher the yield.
Not really. Look, the yield is calculated by the rental income of that property divided by, you minus any cost, the net of it divided by the purchase price, plus, plus the 4% or any other fees that you pay. The lease, I would say if it's a quality tenant and a long-term lease, you just capitalize the amount, based on a different percentage, so to value that business, right? So I would say, I don't want to get too technical here, but just the quality of tenant, there's a tendency to gives you a guarantee to money. So therefore, you're expecting a lower ROI, yield, because you say, okay, I'll get 11%, but I'm guaranteed to get 11%. But if there's 1 year lease and it's just an unknown person, you want to maximize because you have a risk that you have to, re-rent, or you might not get your money from a tenant who defaults on your property. So paying the rent of your property. So there's a lot of factors goes to yield.
Sure. Can you talk about retail?
Yeah, retail is very interesting. Dubai, first thing I remember, I came to Dubai from Sydney in 2010, and I was just said to myself, how many restaurants can you have in the streets? There's like every corner had like kebab shops, and there's like, so how are they all surviving? So obviously I came to know that unlike, a lot of countries, a lot of people working here and they're ordering from outside all the time. So there's a bit of a culture of eating out now these days with the apps delivering, the same food in. So retail for me, that was the first strike that I had. The second one is when you go to the malls, I was shocked to see that in each shop, sometimes you get 4 or 5 people working, because I'm not used to that. I'll go to a shop in Sydney and you have one person. If you're lucky in the peak time to have 2 people, I'm just talking about like 1,000 square feet shop. But here, because the cost of labor is a bit cheaper, so you have more staff.
And customer service is a lot better, which it means you can have more people.
Of course. And obviously people used to come to Dubai and still coming to Dubai for shopping. You've got the big malls and, big brands are here and all that. But retail sector was traditionally not 100% occupied. But we are getting to a point that certain areas, again, especially on prime locations, like Sheikh Zayed Road, for example, at one point when you drove, there were so many showrooms empty. But you probably see now 90% of showrooms being filled with different types of businesses, right? Then you have in retail the malls. The malls, we traditionally had the big 2 or 3 malls, that the city centers, Dubai Mall and Mall of Emirates, that every tourist used to go. But now you get also a lot of community center malls, smaller shopping malls, and bigger malls also. They've come into the market. You see Dubai Hills is full now. Nakheel Mall, they're opening a new phase as well. The retail is also on a right trajectory. I would say offices are quite occupied, but retails are getting there, right?
Yeah.
And lack of warehouses in good key areas.
I mean, for people outside Dubai or aren't used to, one of the reasons why these big shopping malls are so successful is people need to go somewhere in the summer, don't they?
Yes.
You can't be outside in 40 odd degrees of heat. And I mean, you mentioned Dubai Hills Mall. I mean, that's just an incredible shopping mall because it's like having an outside experience with all the glass, the breeze coming towards you, air conditioned breeze. Yeah. And it's very similar to being outside. It's a great place to go in the summer or the winter.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
And then also people want convenience. So if they're living not so close to these big shopping malls, like you say, you've got the smaller shopping malls as well, because it's close to people's homes.
You notice like malls have become recreational centers, right? Especially in summer. You take your kids there, you might buy one item, but you take him to play area, you go to the movies, you eat something at the food court. Yeah, so I agree with you. And it's very hot. What else you can do? You can either go, to indoor house, indoor shopping mall, or anything indoor, because at 40 degrees, it's almost impossible to be outside for too long.
Yeah. You talked about the big investors earlier and the desire sometimes to spread their investment. Will they do that across commercial? So will they go look at different sectors? Will they look at warehouse? Will they look at retail, office? Do they try and spread it out, some of them?
Yeah, I think one thing I noticed about investors, each investor, they've got their own strategy, right? So, and that could change. It could be staff accommodation for 2 years and say, okay, now we've got to kind of be careful of staff accommodation. We've got too many in our portfolio. Let's sell 1 or 2 and then we'll get into warehouses and balance up. And some people, I've seen over time, they're kind of what we call them lucky flippers. They buy a property, the prices goes up, they sell, they buy another one, they kind of fit it out again and sell it, they make money. It depends on the strategy of people. And also nationality. I've noticed some nationalities, they like to keep on to the asset. They don't like to sell. And some nationalities, they don't mind keep buying and selling. But it really depends on the investor. Like institutions, if you talk to an institution of investors, they come up with a matrix that we want industrial. This is the size of the property we're looking for. This is the yield. So they almost tell you what they want, right? So it makes it easier. But unfortunately, sometimes as well, you get all the information, you go to the market, there's nothing available, right? So that's the part that I feel like in certain sectors we're short of stock, right?
Yeah, but you've got good agents, and I'm sure they'll find something or move them into another area.
Yeah, we have very good agents. We try to focus on giving the best service, but sometimes if there's nothing available, we have to be honest,
So a CRC agent, will they specialize in certain areas, different types of commercial, or do they cover the whole board?
Correct. Yeah. So we have the Dubai team that focuses in different sectors. So I have a retail team, industrial team, and offices. And offices kind of divided them in 2 or 3 different areas because it was much easier to concentrate and focus on one area. So yes, we have the focus teams that they focus on various sectors and areas, and what I kept it a bit open as well. So if somebody suddenly has a good relationship with a client and wants to list something in another area, we're not like
you're not too strict
on that, on listing them. Yeah, because then I want continuity of that relationship. Especially with key landlords. And all that.
As I said at the beginning, I had no idea that you built up to this level of 100 agents. And your very heavy involvement with the business. Yeah. Do you want to talk about football?
Yeah, that's my hobby business. I look at the businesses that I'm involved with like different babies. So, if you ask me which one do you love, obviously CRC is my older child, right? But I also like DAFL, which is the Dubai Amateur Football League. I always had a huge passion for football. I used to at one point play like 10 years ago, 5 times a week,
Really?
I'm a bit older.
What level were you?
I would say I'm bang on average amateur player. So, I always played football.
And this was in Australia?
Australia and here as well. I don't have any claim to play any pro league. But I've been consistent in that. So I've been played and been part of organizing all the time. We've been involved with football in Dubai since 2010. At one point, I was organizing a lot of casual matches. There was a guy who was running the 11-a-side league by the name of Dean. And Dean and I and another business partner, we met and we exchanged some ideas. We kind of integrate and we bought into that business. And next, Dean wanted to leave the country. So we kind of had another partner and he kind of moved on. And we kind of integrated that business through an app, and that app kind of pulled different part of the business that we had under one umbrella. So we had the 11-a-sides and 7-a-side, and what we had is casual football, and we automate the whole process. And we've got over 14,000 downloads on the app. And
that's
I would
amazing.
say not all of them are active, being honest. So some people could have retired and left and only played once and left or injured. But we've got about 5,000 to 6,000 active players playing our leagues within the year. And the best part of it is not about money for us. We kind of feel like we're custodian of amateur football in Dubai. And one thing I love about it is every now and again I get a message from someone who's going back to UK or is going back to his home country, wherever that is. I say, look, I came, played casual, made some friends, had a few beers, and really enjoyed my time. And thanks to you, made so many friends, and it was great. Pleasure meeting you. I'm going back to UK, and this for me is very rewarding because I feel like I give something back to the community in what I love, and being part of a team as well. There's a lot of banter. There's a lot of jokes. Lads are lads, and there could be. And the best thing is you could have the CEO of managing director of different companies, and then you can have a chef who is a better player than them, and it's a mix of.
It's a leveler, isn't it?
Yeah. It could be some people from UK, some people from Australia. You have, African players. We're from every nationality, Arabic players. But, once you play on the team, there's a huge, I would say, it's a huge fun, and, we are kind of using football as being kids, like some of us, and enjoy ourselves and let the steam out, being
big football family. It's great to see your passion with that.
Yeah. And, I think I personally think that helps people as well in their personal lives as well as professional life, because when you play sports, you feel good about yourself, let a bit of frustration out on the ball, not on on yourself, and getting out of the house is healthy. I would say if you're married for a long time, it will help you.
I won't say too much, but yeah.
but I just think it gives you a bit of a balance, right? Yeah. And that's what I always loved.
100%.
Yeah, and we are a professional organization. The app is kind of what we introduced, and if whatever we do is really in adherence to the law, we're fully licensed, fully insured. We have sponsors that they're huge brands, that help us to kind of tick over and subsidize some of that.
Well done, and that's where your business acumen comes in, doesn't it?
To be honest, I don't think people realize that the way Amateur Football League or DAFL is, we kind of, we're not saying we're non-for-profit, but we're almost not making any profit for the hours that we put in. I'm looking at that business as something I'm really proud of, to say I'm giving back something to society. I think two of my business partners, one of them used to be a director of IBM.
Really?
And, maybe there's an opportunity for him to come and tell you his story one day. But he also kind of, at one point said, well, I had enough of corporate board and I just want to do this. And he's done amazing work with one of the fairest persons to run any organization, let alone football, because in football you have to be really, have a steady hand. And we're not doing it really for money. I'm not saying that there's no money in it, right? But we're all, like, he was a director of IBM for many years, and me and my other business partners, we have other businesses that pay our bills. So, yeah.
Contrary to what you said earlier a bit, you can diversify with football because it's passionate. It's your passion. So,
I agree. I agree with you. This is the football and CRC. They kind of started at the same time, right? So they were not connected to each other. But what I can tell you, I knew so much about both businesses when I started them. When I say diversify into a new stream of business, it's like tomorrow I say, look, I want to have a swimming center, right? It's just, I don't know anything about having a center. I don't know anything about swimming. I don't know anything about swimming pools, right? So it's sports, but it's very different to what I know. So, and it's real estate. It's very different to what I read. So it needs to be, either you have to have a personal knowledge in it, which I did. So if you look at CRC journey, I started as a broker in 2014, which is almost 10 years ago. So I kind of grow within the same trade. Football, I always been involved in amateur football league. I've been involved with a club which is called the BFC here, so we're coming from, organizing football. So, I never forget there are times I chased people for 20 dirham, to pay the bills, when in 2010 when I was organizing football. So I had a lot of information, but, if you ask me now to do another sport, I won't do it. If you ask me to do another type of, business that is not really matching my expertise, I would not bother, because I learned that if you don't know it that well, you should either work your way up from the beginning, which I think that board is passed for me. I'm not going to go and be apprentice in the plumbing,
Well done on what you've done. That app looks fantastic. It's a great combination of your passion, football, and your background as well and your tech knowledge. Just before I let you go, before we look to wrap up, can you say what the future holds for you? What are you excited about?
Look, I'm excited about a few projects. Look, I'm excited about the CRC growth. Maybe we look at other even countries to now to grow. Saudi could be potentially a huge milestones for CRC as a brand, and we are looking at that maybe this year, at the end of this year or early next year. I also have a bit of an eye for technology. We talked earlier. I think AI, as I said earlier, it can change and reshuffle the deck. So if you're blindsided to technology, you might become a Kodak story, right? And this is what we said earlier. So I think what excites me to see those technologies being implemented and help the workforce to be more efficient. And to be honest with you, I'm optimistic about this region in general. I think, over the last few years, there has been a lot of changes within the region. Saudi investing a lot, that attracts people. And, a lot of people that live in Saudi that will come to Dubai and set up something
help
here.
Each other,
they help each other. So it could be complementary as well, unless, you have a drastic law from each country, which I don't think that's going to happen. So I'm quite excited to see England coming second as well in the Euros. No, joking about it. I'm looking forward.
Be happy with second.
I'm looking forward to the next rounds of the European.
Who is going to win it?
I don't know. Look, it's difficult.
The host nation, Germany.
I don't think so. I think they've got a good team, and there's a big young. Spain surprised me the most, right? But you can't count someone like Italy out, because Italy normally second round they would just play a defensive game and could go all the way up. Or I really hope England win, right? Because I've been to so many places with my friends, and I have a lot of British friends, and they suffered so many times. And you deserve to win once, And but that makes it interesting, and as a its own, cup, the European Cup. It makes it interesting that you have all these countries who actually win it. There's very strong teams there.
Yeah, well, in a couple of weeks we'll find out. But you're doing a fantastic job. Well done on your career so far.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks very much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, David. Thank you
Cheers.
very much.